Hello, welcome to this tutorial for ARMA 3 Alpha, which is a follow-up of my briefing tutorial I did a few months ago, and I actually wanted to do this follow-up earlier, I just never got around to it. Anyways, here it is, and in this tutorial I'll explain a few problems with the current implementation of the briefing modules. One of the problems is that it doesn't work in multiplayer. Well, it does work, but not if the tasks are created before the mission starts. And another problem, which is present in both single player and multiplayer, which is a problem I will show first. So let's start by creating a player, and then create a create task module. And just put anything here. Just make sure that you put something and that the task ID is unique. But you know, I expect that you watched my briefing tutorial, so you should already know how to do this. And then synchronize to the player, and then create a set task state module. Set it to assigned, hit OK, and then synchronize it to the create task module. So now we have a task that's created for the player, and then the state of the task is set to assigned. And this all happens before the mission starts. So when we get into the mission, we already have the task and it's been assigned. So let's just prove that by going to the map tasks, and we can see the task has been created and assigned, indicated by this V right here. However, if we go back into the editor and we remove these two modules and then recreate them, to go to modules, double click, but this time in reverse. So we place the set task state module first, and then the create task module, and again synchronize, and now we have the exact same setup, you think, but if we preview, and then go to tasks, you'll see that the task has been created, but it hasn't been assigned. And well, this is a pretty huge problem actually, and I'll explain why that happens and how to work around it. So when you place items in the mission editor, you place them in a certain order. In this case, we place the player first, then we place the set task state module, and then lastly we place the create task module. And when you save the mission editor will save them in that order as well. And when we play the mission, the game will create the items in that order as well. So when we start the game, the game will first, when we start the mission, the game will first create the player, and then it'll create the set task state module. And as soon as the set task state module has been created, the module will look for synchronized modules. So it'll look for this module down over here, the create task module, to know which task to set the state for. And at this point in time, the create task module hasn't been created yet because it's placed last. So the set task state module won't find anything and therefore won't do anything, which gives a problem. So I'll show you how to work around that. So basically you have to place set task state modules last. So we can do this again by just cutting this and pasting it and then resynchronize. So now it's placed last. But that's very tedious to do. It's very tedious to make sure that all your modules are placed in a certain order. So and also because the editor doesn't show you which order items are placed in, because ordinarily it doesn't matter, or wouldn't matter. The only way to see the order is by opening up the mission.sqm file in the mission folder, and we don't want to do that. So I'll show you a workaround. Basically what we're going to do is get the set task state module to wait like a second before it tries to assign the state, or set the task state to assign, sorry. So to do that, we'll create a trigger. So go to triggers and then double click somewhere, and then just set the two axes to 0 because we don't need that. And then we're going to change the condition. The condition specifies when the trigger will activate. By default, the condition is this, and this just means that it'll use whatever parameters we specified in the trigger dialog here. And we don't want that. We don't want to use any of this. We're just gonna change the condition to true. Which means that once the mission starts, the trigger will check the condition, and if the condition is true, which it is because we just literally type true, so it's always, the condition is always fulfilled, the trigger will activate the moment the mission starts. That's not exactly what we want, but that's why we are gonna set a timeout. So just make sure timeout is selected, and then put 1 in the min, mid, and max fields. So now when the mission starts, the trigger will check the condition, and if it's true, which it is, it'll wait the specified timeout, which is 1 second, and then it'll activate. So basically we've just created a 1 second timer that starts when the mission starts. And then all we have to do is synchronize it to the set task state module. So now what happens is we start the game, and then before the mission is created, because all items you place in the mission editor are created before the mission starts. So first the task will be created, which is fine, and then the set task state module will also be created before the mission starts, but because it's synchronized to a trigger, it won't do anything until that trigger activates, and it won't activate until after a second. Okay, so let's just test that. So if we preview, the task should be created immediately before the mission starts, basically before the loading screen appears. And as you can see now, the task has been assigned. The only downside to this is that you'll get this dialog up here that says the task has been assigned when you start the mission, but maybe that's what you want. But anyways, it works. You don't have to worry about which order you place the modules in. Yeah, that's how to fix that. Now to the multiplayer problem, which is essentially the same solution. We just copy the trigger here and paste it, and then synchronize it to the create task module, and then set the first trigger's timeout to 2 instead. The problem is in multiplayer that when a task is created before the mission starts, only the server player will get the task and everyone else won't. So here we just again wait 1 second after the mission starts before we create the task, and then wait another second before we assign the task. So this waits 1 second, this waits 2 seconds. So now it'll work in multiplayer. And again, let's just preview just for good measure. So if we go into the map, we'll see the task being created and then the task being assigned. And again, the downside to this is that you get this dialog up here that says the task has been created and assigned. And another downside is that in multiplayer, before a mission starts, you get a briefing screen where you can see all the tasks that's been created before the mission started. But because we are now creating the task after the mission starts, people won't see your tasks in the briefing, so well, that's another downside. So that's pretty much all there is to it. And let me just explain why you have to use 1 second and 2 seconds instead of just 0.1 second and 0.2 seconds, because 0.2 seconds is after 0.1 second. But I'll explain that now. So if we just put these to 0.1 second, and these are valid values for timeouts. Well, I'll explain now why that won't work. There we go. Okay, so triggers. The problem is that triggers only update each half second. So when we start the game, the trigger will wait half a second, then check its condition, and if it's true, then it'll activate. But because we have a timeout, it'll wait the specified amount of time. But again, it only updates each half second, so it'll wait half a second and then check if the timeout has run out. So even though we have 0.1, it will wait at least half a second. And the other one is set to 0.2, but because the triggers wait at least 0.5, both the timeouts will have run out when the timers check again. That was probably confusing. Let me just give an example. Let's say that you're a person who are checking if 2 people are dead. So the first person dies after 1 day, and the second person dies after 2 days. but you only check each third day. So, the first player dies, the second person dies, and then you check on the third day, and even though they die with a day between them, because you only check on the third day, you will pronounce them dead at the same time. And this is basically what happens here as well. So you'll have to use intervals that differ at least 0.5 seconds. So to be sure, make them differ at least 0.6. So you can set the first to 0.1, but then you have to set the second to at least 0.7, or just to be safe, set them to 1, and it'll work. And just to prove what I'm saying is true, let me just add a little scripting command here. System in chat. So basically, this command will just print a message in the chat, which will contain a timestamp in seconds from the time the game started, and then a message that says the task has been created, just so we know when this trigger has activated, and the same for the other one as well. In this case, I'll just type set state. So now when we preview, we can see when the triggers were activated and in which order. So, okay, so here you can see that the task was first created, the trigger for the task created was triggered first, and then the set state. And as you can see, there's actually 0.3 seconds between them. And if we restart, it may be the other way around. So now, okay, same again. As you can see, they were actually activated at the same time, 29.3, 29.3. And if we restart again, then the state may have been set first. Nope, same time again. Let's try again. Come on. There we go. So as you can see now, the set state was executed first, and then the task was created. And again, there's only 0.1 second between them. So that's why you have to use intervals that differ at least 0.5 seconds. Yeah. Hopefully this wasn't too confusing or tedious. And of course, if you have multiple tasks, like if you just create a copy of this and say BBB, and then synchronize to the player, and then you can just synchronize to the same trigger for the same 0.1 second trigger. You don't have to create a new trigger for each task you create, and now you'll just have 2 tasks. And again, the only downside to this is it won't be shown in the briefing, and you'll get a dialog appear for each and every task that you create. But it's better than not having tasks in multiplayer at all. And then you should get another created. There is. And you can see you get 2 tasks, and you get the assigned. Okay, so yeah. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope you understood most of it. So yeah, bye. See you later.